This part's too good to be true. I can't stop listening to you. Mikey writes the stupidest jokes, and Todd's always doing the most. Paige plays tough, but she's always crying. And so I thank God I'm subscribed, 'cause this pod's too good to be true. I can't stop listening to you. I love this podcast, and if it's quite alright, I need this podcast to warm my lonely nights. Romancing the podcast, trust in me when I say no other podcast looks at rom-coms this way. So call your mom and have her tune in today, and let us rip your favorite films to shreds.
Thank you for tuning into Romancing the Podcast. You had us at hello. I'm Paige Wesley.
I'm Mikey Randolph.
And I'm Todd Schlosser, and this week we watched 10
10
Things I Hate About You. Now, I made you guys watch this movie, but I'm assuming you've both seen this movie before.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a classic.
Yeah. Do you remember the first time you saw it?
In high school?
Yeah,
High
definitely.
school.
I don't even remember the first time I saw this movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's so prevalent in pop culture. Like, I've seen this movie a bunch. I hope to see it a bunch more because it's...
It held up.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
don't
loved
get me
it.
wrong. There are parts of it that I'm like, that did not age well. But like on the whole, this movie holds up, and it is way funnier than I remember it being.
Yeah.
Kind of like She's All That, where I feel like as an adult, there's a lot more jokes in this for a grown-up than there are a teenager.
Yes. Oh, and to that end, Paige, I loved their dad so much
So good.
this time watching it than when I watched it the first time. Loved him so much.
When he said up to my elbows in placenta,
Placenta?
I scream laughed.
Yeah, it's so fucking funny.
Also, I need this soundtrack because it slaps.
Yeah, it's pretty great. I mean, maybe it's just because our like formative years were like late 90s, early 2000s. Like a lot of movies from that time period really have pretty boss soundtracks.
Oh, you mean when music was last good?
By boss, do you mean Mighty Mighty Boss
Boss
Tones?
Tones?
Because this movie is hardcore ska from front to down.
Yeah, it is T to B ska, baby.
And as someone who saw No Doubt in concert, yes.
Were they ska at the time?
It was their reunion tour, so they played a lot of ska.
Okay. Because they evolved away from ska pretty early on in their inception.
They did. Yeah, when I saw them on the reunion tour, they played Tragic Kingdom basically in its entirety.
Oh, nice. Cool. Yeah. So what did you guys think watching it this time?
Heath Ledger's pretty fucking dreamy in this movie. And I was not a huge Heath Ledger fan at the time, but this makes me want to watch Knight's Tale.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. I love Knight's Tale.
I thought it was good. I thought it was like She's All That. I thought it was really comparable to
She's All That.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agree.
It reminded me a lot of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I enjoyed watching it again. And then, I mean, I didn't like that they went to like some rich ass private Hogwarts institution or whatever the hell they're going to school. I was like, this is the most affluent school I've ever seen. But you know what? That was suburbia America in the 90s.
I mean, that's what was in the movies in the 90s. That is not what people were experiencing in the 90s. No.
It's a mythical place.
Yeah.
Like that's something that I think I didn't understand as a teenager, and then now as an adult, knowing that it's a Shakespearean adaptation.
Yeah, it's based on Taming of the Shrew.
Yeah, everything in the movie is mythical. So it's like the school is named after the place in Taming of the Shrew. Their names are out, but we don't get a concrete like where are they. The closest we get is they're in paddle boats, and we can see the Seattle skyline in the background.
Yeah.
And then she's watching Real World Seattle. But that's like as close as we get to putting this near a real thing.
Yeah. I mean, because it really is based on Taming of the Shrew. Heath Ledger's name is Patrick Verona because that's where it takes place in Taming of the Shrew, or someplace close to Verona.
Well, yeah, he would have been Petruchio in Taming of the Shrew. But yeah.
Yes, I will also pretend that I know about the play.
I
Taming
ain't
of the
pretending, fool. I'm that kind of nerd.
Yeah. A little revelation into what Todd was in high school. If we had to like say which one of these characters we were, I would love to
You
say
were
that
David Krumholtz?
Yes. I would love to say I was Joseph Gordon-Levitt, but I was not. I was the Shakespeare nerd. But anyway, let's get into this movie though, because we got a lot to talk about.
This movie literally opens with It's been
1 week
week
since you
and
looked at me.
that's the title credits.
I was like, yes, the 90s.
Which is funny because we made up parody versions of that song just a few weeks ago in our Ringu episode.
I feel like every time I turn around, that song is around.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just what I've been watching recently, but now anytime I hear anyone like, I'm just like 1 week since, and it just like, the train takes off in my brain.
Yeah.
So I lost my mind that was the credit song.
There's literally nothing wrong with that.
No, honestly, it's the perfect song. That and you got plastic feet.
Oh, God.
But you say he's just a friend.
But you say I'm just a friend.
Oh, baby, you. So seriously, that song's been stuck in my head since we recorded a week and a half ago that episode.
Can I tell you, I watched on YouTube clips of just the motorcycle sequence from Mannequin.
We're talking about Mannequin for those of you who are uninitiated into that episode. But holy shit, that episode stuck with me, man. All right, let's move into this one, though. So it opens with Bare Naked Ladies 1 week, and we see the girls driving in a car.
Right. And as they drive up in a convertible, Julia Stiles pulls up in an older car, playing Joan Jett like a fucking badass. As a teenager, I was like, what a bitch. And I'm watching this now and I'm just like, fuck yeah. She fucks.
Right?
Yes.
You show
like, she's a monster. And I'm like, is she? Is she a monster?
No, she's pretty badass.
Is she our best friend in college?
Also, we should disclose that I've had a huge crush on Julia Stiles all my life.
Shocking no one. She's blonde, kind of horsey.
Yeah. She got too many teeth in her mouth. Like, I can see why you're into her, Mikey.
Mm-hmm.
I find her face very pretty. I do think she looks like an actual teen in this movie.
She does look like an actual teen. You're right. Oh, and so does her younger sister.
Her in the Bourne trilogy, that's...
Oh, yeah, she's very pretty in the Bourne trilogy.
Yeah, Bianca is the girl who played The Secret Life of Alex Mack. She was Alex Mack.
Yeah. Did you watch Alex Mack? You looked confused when I first said Alex Mack.
I absolutely watched Alex Mack.
I didn't. It was on cable TV.
Oh, okay.
I did not have the option.
Allow me to fill you in.
Well, Natalie already told me. That's the reason I know.
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
She was like, she's a teenager. She gets toxic waste spilled on her, which allows her to become the robot from Terminator 2. And just like...
I'm sorry. Is that real?
Yes, dude.
What?
I mean, no, not the actual robot, but she can do the same, like, silver melt thing and then, like, go under doors and stuff.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Okay, that sounds
dude.
awesome.
Secret Life of Alex Mack fucking slapped. Dude.
Oh, yeah.
It was great.
I loved it better than Clarissa Explains It All.
Well, damn. I wish I wasn't poor growing up so I could have watched it.
So we see this must have been during the credits when her name was on the screen, but I just have in my notes, how long did Gabrielle Union play a teenager? Because it seems like Gabrielle Union played a teenager for like 20 years.
Honestly, she sort of looks teenagery in this one.
She does, because she's, I think, a little bit younger in this one than she is in She's All That.
No, She's All That came out the same year.
Damn, she busy.
Yeah, she was busy. She was living that seventh heaven life. But 1999, she was in She's All That, 10 Things I Hate About You, and Clueless, all in the same year.
Is she in Clueless?
Sorry, she was in a Clueless TV show. Excuse me.
Okay, I was gonna say, I was like, I think you're thinking of Stacey Dash, and that's a very different person.
So yeah, she was in She's All That and 10 Things I Hate About You in the same year.
I guess maybe it was just that year that she played a teenager, but she just, like, between 1999 and 2002, she played enough teenagers that we were just like, damn, she's a teen in everything.
I mean, she got work. She's great in this, though. I loved her.
She's like almost 50 and looks amazing. But she's the reason that I don't think Beyonce is as old as she says she is. This is why I think Beyonce is older than she says she is. Beyonce claims to be just about 40, and then Gabrielle Union multiple times has been like, yeah, we were teenagers at the same time. And I'm like, that sounds about right.
Yeah, Beyonce says she's 39 years old.
Yeah, bullshit.
That is not true.
Bullshit, mama.
She said she was born in 1981.
Here's the thing. I've brought this up on Cult Podcast before, and multiple people have just been like, Paige, she is 39. leave it alone. And I'm like, I won't leave it alone.
In 2019, a news article reported that she was actually 44 in
I believe
2019. So she is actually probably 46, allegedly. Don't sue us, Beyonce. But listen, you and Gabrielle Union look wonderful.
They look amazing.
Yeah, they look great.
If I could look that good at 35, I will be happy.
Absolutely.
If you told me Beyonce was 44, I'd believe you immediately. I'd be like, of course she is, and she looks phenomenal and good for her.
Yeah, but that was 2 years ago. She's 46, allegedly. Don't sue us, Beyonce.
It's this whole thing where she's like, yeah, I'm only like 5 years older than you. And I'm just like, bullshit, mama. Bullshit,
mama. You give her that whole Matthew McConaughey. You're like, go frost yourself. You're fully 46.
Frost yourself.
Well, now that we got down to the bottom of how old is Beyonce for no
who's
reason.
Not in this movie. Oh my God. Okay. So we cut to the guidance counselor's office where it's Miss Perky, played by Allison Janney, our queen.
Allison Janney's my favorite.
I love her so
She's
much.
So good. I love her
we
in
need to
everything.
get her on this podcast.
That's never going to happen.
Listen,
but
that would be a huge get. She's a huge star, but I love her so much.
I adore Allison Janney.
I honestly am sad we only get her for like the first 30 minutes of this movie and then never see her again.
I want her to narrate this movie.
Yes.
So obsessed with her character.
I want to start a podcast where we read one chapter of her book every week. Like my dad wrote a porno.
Oh my God. Well, we're basically doing My Dad Wrote a Porno over on Cult Podcast right now, and it's going weird.
Because you wrote a vampire porn?
Yeah. And now I'm reading it. And so I identified with Allison Janney's character in this very, very, very much. Because we see a close of her screen, and she's clearly typing out a sex scene in a romance novel.
Oh, yeah. Talking about white milky thighs and someone caressing them or whatever. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I wasn't not into it.
Yeah, in my notes, I just typed in all caps, OMG, she's me.
She's you if you were 6'4" or however tall she is.
7 feet tall.
One could only dream. 7 feet tall and super into 90s electronica.
What is it, a dream, Mikey? I do love that her last name is Perky. They refer to her as Perky in Perky's office and stuff like that. And the name of her book is Perky. If you look at the top where the title of the book is, or the title of the file she's writing, it's called Perky. Which is awesome. Just think about that. Like, the #1 New York Times bestseller is this book called Perky, written by someone whose name is Perky. That's awesome.
It's like my life according to Perky. It's just an autobiography.
Oh, I love it. I honestly need that book.
Should I just take suggestions, like a name, a place, a thing, and write romance novel improv for this show?
No joke. We should start a Patreon, and that's all we do.
Yes, Patreonicals, a Patreonicals romance novel.
And listen, Paige, I'll improv it with you. We'll do Patreonical style improv with the two main characters every week.
Oh God, no! It's so painful reading it on Cult Podcast. It is. Well,
this would be different. It would just be straight up improv. It would be you playing the female character, me playing the male character, and Mikey narrating.
He looked at her knowing longingly. I will be late to work.
Although, okay, somebody gives me suggestions. I write it. Mikey has to read the narration.
And then you and I act it out?
Yeah, because Mikey's going to be super fucking embarrassed.
Yeah, that's going to be great. I am fully on board for this idea, Paige. I'll even help you write a few episodes. Like, I'm into this.
Yes. I am down for all of this.
All right. So we cut to Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yes.
Like fresh off of Third Rock.
Still on Third Rock when he filmed
Still
this.
on Third Rock?
Actually, and so was Bianca.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
I think it was after this movie.
Well, I mean, he was on it the whole time.
He was on Third Rock as like a baby.
Yeah.
Not like a baby, but like a tiny child.
But yeah, Larissa
Oleynik.
Oh yeah, Alyssa Oleynik was on Third Rock from the Sun.
She played his girlfriend.
Yeah, she was on Third Rock from the Sun for 25 episodes or so from 98 to 2000. So she was on Third Rock during this.
Okay. But yeah, so it's young Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And Allison Janney is like, so you've been to 9 schools in 10 years. What are you, an army brat? And he's like, yes. And she's just like, well, cool. Sounds good. And she's like, this isn't going to be different from any other school. And as she does, something hits the window behind her.
It looks like the world's biggest ball of spit.
I couldn't tell if it was like spit or vomit or like a sopping wet toilet paper ball with poo in it. Like, it's just gross.
That is oddly specific, Paige.
I don't know. I was trying to figure it out. And she just says, same little asswipe shit for brains everywhere.
And flicks
he
off the window. Like, she is wonderful. I love her in this.
I love her. And he just goes, am I in the right office? And she's like, not anymore, you aren't. I've got Deviants to see and a novel to finish.
Now
And just
get,
like
scoot.
ushers him out the door.
I love it. This book about creamy thighs ain't gonna molest itself, Paige. Or write itself, sorry, my bad.
Creamy thighs.
Paige, Todd just said molest themselves.
I said molest itself, yes.
Thighs aren't sentient.
They can't molest on their own, Mikey.
Yeah, she has to type in things like wet flower or turgid member.
Well, I've been writing a spec script for a horror movie about sentient thighs that molest people.
I think you're just referring to Goldeneye.
I
We
mean,
need
those
an
are just
action
legs.
movie podcast, and we
But they're
don't
just
have
legs.
time.
They're just legs.
someone suggested that we three start a third podcast called And Everything Else. And just watch anything we want.
I mean, that'd be really funny, but
It
like,
would be, and just like do a rat, like pick a movie each week. I'd just be like, this is the dumbest movie I can think of this week.
We're watching Hell Comes to Frogtown.
no.
That's a horror movie. That is a horror movie. It is on Shudder. We will be watching it.
I mean, this is how I could weasel in Total Recall, but then also force people to watch That Thing You Do. So
I love that thing you do. But listen, I would be game if we all didn't have other jobs. You know, if this is like our only
Same.
job,
Yes.
I would be game. We don't have time for it. But I loved the premise. I was like, yes, I love everything about this.
Yes, if you guys could pay me as much money and benefits as I make at my day job,
I'll watch
just
as many movies
watching
as you
movie-
fucking
yeah,
want, man.
Yeah.
Guys, tell your friends about the podcast. That's what we're asking. So as we grow, we'll do more fun stuff.
I just want people to download our new ringtone. You
You got plastic feet. But you say he's just a friend. But you say he's just a friend.
just a
She
friend.
cheated on me.
with a mannequin.
Mannequin. All right, we got to move
Anyway,
on.
Okay,
Yeah.
back to this movie. So as Joseph Gordon-Levitt's coming out, Heath Ledger's going in, and Allison Janney's just like, oh, our weekly visit, how's it going?
Yeah.
And she says, word on the street is that you exposed yourself in the cafeteria. And he's like, I was just joking with the lunch lady. It was a bratwurst.
I love how she goes, oh, it's a bit optimistic, don't you think?
What she says is, bratwurst, aren't we the optimists? And then she just says, keep it in your pouch, and sends him on his way.
Yeah.
And then walks back to her computer where she deletes something she wrote and types in
Bratwurst.
bratwurst.
Yeah.
Oh,
Listen,
it's so funny.
she gets inspiration from the world around her.
Oh, God. I can't tell you how much I would laugh if I was reading a romance novel and then it was like, he whipped out his bratwurst. I'd be like, what?
It would make more sense if he was German.
Where do you want my strudel?
Anyway.
She's a little sauerkraut about that joke.
David Krumholtz shows up as Michael Eichmann
Yeah.
to show Joseph Gordon-Levitt around. And Joseph Gordon-Levitt's like, oh, thank God. They usually just send one of those AV nerds. And then a guy walks up and just says, where should I put these slide projectors? And he just ignores the guy.
Well, he even says, hey, Michael, where should I put these slide projectors? And he goes, who's Michael? And just ignores him. He just introduced himself as Michael. This guy is amazing, and he's in everything. I love this guy so much.
I have a very sincere Christmas love for the
Yes.
Santa Claus.
Yes, and he's the elf.
first one.
Yes.
And he's the elf.
Oh,
and
he's so
I
good.
fucking love the Santa Claus.
Do you know the actor who's like the ugly Matt Damon guy?
Yes, Jesse Plemons.
Yes, I feel like this is the version of that for Oscar Isaacs.
Yes.
Mind blown.
Yeah, he is like Bobo Oscar Isaac, but also famous.
Yeah.
Oh, because I am insanely attracted to Oscar Isaac. This is strange for me.
But now picture him in elf ears and a magician's hat.
It is not working. It is really ruining it for me. Anyway, he gives Joseph Gordon-Levitt the breakdown of like who everybody is. Like the pretty people, the coffee kids, the white Rastas, which is
Yes.
the cowboys who rope a trash can,
Yeah.
which is hysterical. And then the yuppie like finance teens who he was like trying to get in with, but then they find out that he bought his Izods at an outlet mall.
Well, I don't know if you picked up on this. He used to be like tight with that group.
Yeah.
They kicked him out of it because of what you just said, Paige. And then his payback is the party at his house.
Yes.
I love that.
Then we see in the distance Alex Mack, a.k.a. Larissa
Bianca.
Olenek, a.k.a. Bianca
Bianca.
Stratford.
Yeah.
And my favorite is he's like, she's beautiful and deep. And then we cut to what she's saying.
Oh,
and
yeah.
she's like, like and love are different. Like, I like my Skechers, but I love my Prada backpack. And then Gabrielle Union says, I love my Skechers. And she just goes, because you don't have a Prada backpack. And I'm just like, what is this conversation?
It's like the most vapid, like so shallow thing you could ever say.
Controversial statement.
Uh-oh.
Bianca might be the villain of this movie.
No, that is not a controversial statement.
Like her and Joey, who goes on to start a cult later, might be
You mean
the villains of this film.
the villain in this film, Joey, is definitely based on Jared Leto. I'm just going to say it.
Oh, yeah. You mean as a real person?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, he was a model.
But a catalog model, which is so funny.
He started a cult.
So did this guy. This guy also has a cult.
Oh, shit. I didn't
was
realize,
not kidding.
I didn't realize he also started a cult.
Yeah, they make kombucha and worship crystals. It's real boring.
It's called 10 Things to Love About Yourself.
10 reasons Jesus says I should bang your wife. No, I would say of Jared Leto's cult and this guy's cult, Jared Leto's cult is more fake because it's definitely like a publicity stunt. His cult is more real, but a lot less interesting.
Well, all right.
Anyway, this is where we find out that the Stratford sisters, or at least Bianca, as we've met, is not allowed to date. We cut to an English class where they're discussing Hemingway. And Kat Stratford, Bianca's older sister, is just like, yeah, Hemingway was a dude.
Well, she says that because they read something of Hemingway's or whatever, and someone says that they like it, and it's great or whatever. And then she
says it's so romantic. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
that's what
he
it is.
had syphilis. Like,
I like Hemingway.
Of course you do. And I don't blame you. He's a good writer. He just wasn't a great dude, and that's all they're pointing out here.
Yeah. I would never say he wasn't a great writer. Not a great dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, most writers are terrible people.
Yeah,
Hey,
Paige.
I know.
Haven't we learned from romantic comedies that writers are terrible people?
They must be.
And the writers of romantic comedies are also narcissistic, terrible people who write ridiculously evil movies about themselves where they're not
Why?
knowing that they are evil themselves.
Yes.
Why do you think I mostly wrote horror and just regular comedy?
This out of work author who's going to get found in this movie also falls in love with someone after pretending to be someone else and like maybe
He's
date
a
raping
secret
them.
architect.
And she's a homeless vampire. Sorry.
And their budget is $2.1 million.
And they want to find a closet underground next to the seashore, but also close to his job downtown.
This is going to be one fucking weird episode.
Watch as she drains the hot property brother of all his blood.
They're going to have a bloody good time.
So this is where Joey, who we haven't quite met yet, calls her a hag who has no friends.
Yeah.
And the teacher is basically just like, shut the fuck up, Chachi. Which is like, this teacher pulls no punches. I kind of
would
love him
be
to
this
death.
teacher.
This teacher is amazing, but he's also a terrible teacher. Like, the guy who plays him does an amazing job, but this teacher would be fired.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But she basically complains, like, why are we not reading more books by women? This is the patriarchy.
I love his response.
His response is so great, and I did not understand it as a teenager, but as an adult, I'm just like, that's fucking right. You tell her what's up. Where he's like, oh, I'm glad that you can see beyond your suburban oppression to see that women are not well represented. And I'll do that as soon as we buy a book written by a black man. And I was just like, damn straight.
Yeah.
And then the white Rastas are like, that's right. And he's like, don't get me started
On you too.
on what's happening over here.
This is a waking nightmare I am not ready to dive into yet.
I'm not allowed to punch children, but if I could.
It would be you, bruv. Sorry.
That's actually the name of my autobiography.
One of my absolute favorites. I'm not allowed to punch children, but I would if I could.
Oh my God, I gotta take my hoodie off. It's getting too hot.
Oh
my God, a second hoodie.
Wow, 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 wow.
It was stuck on my Apple Watch.
Anyway.
This Rastafarian white people thing was way big in the 90s.
Yeah.
It was.
I had a lot of friends who were into hacky sack and smoking pot.
Well, yeah, I mean, who isn't? It's a good time. But like,
Scene 2.
Scene 2, he sends Julia Stiles to the office where we cut to that office and Allison Janney is typing out, but all like talking as she's typing, undulating with desire with her red, and then she like deletes it and goes crimson cape and Reginald stiff and Judith. What's another name for engorged? I don't know. I'll look it up. And then Julia Stiles comes in and just says,
Turgid?
Swollen, turgid,
Yeah.
tumescent. And at this point, she's like, I hear you were terrorizing Mr. Morgan's class again. And she's just like, I expressed an opinion. And she brings up, kind of like you expressed an opinion to this boy previously who, quote, his testicle retrieval went quite well.
I love her response to that because she goes, I still maintain he kicked himself in the nuts.
It was so great.
I loved that line. I was like, hell yeah, Julia.
And we do find out later it's because he tried to grope her in the lunch line.
Yeah,
we
I
hear
mean,
about it later in the movie.
Yeah, he fully deserved it. Sure.
Yep. And Allison Janney's like, the point is that a lot of people think you are, and she goes, tempestuous? And she just goes, a heinous bitch. And you might want to work on that. As always, thank you for your guidance. And then tells her that she should get back to writing about quivering members. And she just goes, ooh, I like that.
Of course you do, Perky.
Perky. So we cut out to like the quad of the high school, and Joey is calling after Bianca, and his friend basically says, dude, she's out of reach even for you. And they are about to make a bet on it, and he just says, no, I'm going to do this for fun.
Yeah.
And they're going to come back to it eventually, but
It's a very similar premise to She's All That too.
Same sort of jam. Yeah.
But they kind of like, this bet is only mentioned for like a second, and he's really, really in it. At least She's All That. There's other scenes of like, I've made a bet, and they talk about it.
I honestly didn't feel like he was in it for the bet. I felt like he wanted to complete the sister cycle.
yes, I
Yeah.
think he was trying to complete a set.
And listen, as a guy who dated two sisters in high school, I sort of understood that.
Oh,
This
boy.
movie really needed Paul Walker walking through scenes going, look at the Bobos on Super Freak, and I would have enjoyed it even more. Anyway, so while he's talking to his friend about Bianca, on the other side of the quad, Joseph Gordon-Levitt and David Krumholtz are talking about Bianca as well, because Joseph Gordon-Levitt has also noticed her.
Yeah, he's like fully in puppy dog love with her.
Right.
Like, doesn't know her, but loves her. Like that kind of kid love, you know?
Very Angus.
What
Yes.
grade is Joseph Gordon-Levitt in?
I got the impression he was a junior because he's able to go to
Yeah.
prom, but not
Right.
as old as like Julia Stiles and Heath Ledger.
Okay.
Right. So this is where David Krumholtz is like, so that guy's a model, and even he can't date her. He also comments that he believes that Bianca is vapid and conceited.
Which is true.
And I, in my notes, just said, this movie is a thesaurus.
yeah.
Yes.
Everyone's constantly changing out their words for a better word. But he defends Bianca, and he's like, you're missing it. She's amazing. And David Krumholtz is like, no, she's what we'll spend the rest of our lives not having. We are always meant to fawn after that girl, but we never actually have her. But she is looking for a French tutor.
And he's like, that's perfect.
Yeah, you speak French?
No, not at all.
But I will.
I love that.
But I will.
Yeah.
So we cut to the parking lot where Julia Stiles is walking out to her car, and Joey passes her in his convertible, and he's like, hey, camo's out. Like, he's just being a dick for no reason.
Maybe it's because he has a tiny one.
We do find that out later.
Yeah, we do.
Yep.
He's got that kind of tiny dick energy that makes you want to start a cult later in life.
I'm here to tell you that by and large, a lot of cult leaders be slanging big dong, reportedly. So Gabrielle Union and Bianca are walking, and this is where we get the conversation of like, so you could be overwhelmed but underwhelmed. Can you ever just be whelmed? And she says, I think you can in Europe.
It made me laugh so much.
It is funny, but man, it's ridiculous. Like, it just shows how dumb they sort of are.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're like sophomores in high school. Like,
yeah. And so they climb into Joey's car.
Ah, yes. His Corvette.
His vet.
Yeah.
And Kat sees it and is just like, disgusting.
Yeah. And then she almost runs over Michael as he rides his motorcycle out.
Yeah. Remove head from sphincter, then drive.
Yeah.
And this is where Joseph Gordon-Levitt first kind of gets a face of Kat, of like the shrew, as they call her. Because it's Taming of the Shrew.
Yeah, and this is where Michael explains that's Bianca's sister.
Right. So he then drives away on his motorcycle and accidentally arcs it over like a cliff down towards the football field.
I loved it. I thought it was so fucking funny, man.
It doesn't play into the rest of the movie at all.
No.
Like, it's not important ever again. It's just funny to watch someone fall down.
Yeah, this movie sticks to a very, very tight formula of every 3 minutes there needs to be a joke.
Yeah.
You know, and this is one of those check boxes.
Right.
But I mean, I'm here for it. I laughed. I thought it was funny.
Anyway, we cut back to the Stratford home where Kat is reading the bell jar. Real downer. And her father comes through and just says, did you make anyone cry today? And she says, no, but it's only 4:30. And this is where we find out that she got into Sarah Lawrence and her dad's not super happy because it's the other side of the country.
Yeah, he thought she was going to stay here and be a husky.
She's not husky enough to be a husky.
No, she's rail thin in this movie. It's a bit much.
Needs more cheese.
Yeah.
Bianca comes through the front door and she kind of deflects her father's interest onto Bianca and is just like, ask who drove Bianca home. And this is where we find out that the rule is no dating till you graduate.
That was the rule, yeah.
It's about to change.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's because he is a labor and delivery doctor. And so he basically says he delivered a set of twins to a 15-year-old girl. And he asks Bianca, do you know what she said? And Bianca says something very offensive.
It does not hold up well.
It does not hold up well.
We don't have to say it. You know what it was.
I'm not gonna, but she implies that 15-year-old girl was on some substances and should have made her boyfriend wear a condom.
Yeah.
By the way, it's not that 15-year-old's responsibility. Guys, you also have a responsibility to participate in birth control if you're going to be having sex. Just saying it.
That's why Mikey's decided not to have sex.
Good call.
No, I want kids, so like I abandoned birth control, which coincidentally led to no one having sex with me.
What are you going to name your kids? Syphilis and gonorrhea?
Jack.
After your hand?
Oh, what? After my dead great-grandfather!
Is he the one who started that stupid restaurant behind you?
He fought in the war.
Mikey turned into the Hulk.
After all of the STDs you get, your dick's going to look like the burgers they served at that restaurant.
It's that thick.
They're going to think you're Irish because you're packing a patty. They call mine the Impossible Burger.
As an Italian, I feel like I shouldn't. Anyway, he says, no, she said I should have listened to my father. And they both call bullshit because it's fully bullshit. Because I'm pretty sure she just said, ah, because she was giving birth. Anyway, so at this point, Julia Stiles is like, I'm not going to date. I don't intend to. Have you seen the people at our school? No, thank you.
The unwashed miscreants, I believe is what she says.
Mm-hmm. And her dad is like, okay, fine. Then Bianca can date when Kat does.
Plot of the movie.
So this basically takes the spotlight off Sarah Lawrence. And now it's on Bianca dating. And Bianca is just like, can you find someone to take you to the movies so I can date? You suck.
Yeah.
Which is brutal. It's such a mean thing to say to a person.
It is pretty brutal. But I mean, honestly, it probably didn't bother her at all because she could get someone to take her to the movies. She just doesn't want to.
Yeah, to be honest, I actually really do like her in this movie, and I like her whole outlook. I'm just like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think so. I like it
bitch.
too. Yeah. She may be a little extreme with it, but I ultimately like where she's coming from.
I feel like she's gonna grow into her own, and it's gonna be fine. But I like her independence.
Yeah, she's going to meet a real nice lady at Sarah Lawrence, and she's going to be very happy.
And yeah, they're gonna raise a whole family of dogs. It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
They're gonna open a bookstore where they play in their band
Yeah.
on Friday nights.
Yeah.
See, her life's gonna be awesome.
It is.
After this movie. Anyway, we cut to Joseph Gordon-Levitt pretending to be a French tutor, and he tries to ask Bianca out, and he's like, well, what about French food? We could eat some on Saturday night.
And then you could tell your dad it's not a date. It's like a class thing.
It's studies.
Yeah.
And she's like, that's cute. What's your name again? Because she is the worst.
Yes, she's terrible.
She's also not at all interested in him, which is okay, but he is not picking up on that sign at all.
Well, she should have invested early because that stock rises very quickly throughout his.
Yeah, has she seen Inception? Oh my God.
Yeah, like this dude is amazing.
I'm gonna say there's fault on both sides.
Sure.
Well, yeah, he's only in love with her for her looks, and then also she's a terrible person.
And he's coming on a little bit strong.
Yeah.
So he is a terrible person as well.
I mean, I would say he is.
A 14-year-old boy.
Yes, I'd say he's a 14-year-old boy where he's pretty shallow and single-minded, and so he's kind of like really coming after her. And she knows it's happening, knows what's up, and at no point is she like, I'm not interested in you.
True.
Which, I get it, but he's not psychic, so like, just tell him. You know, she kind of uses that affection to get the things that she wants, which he does confront her about later in the
I would
movie.
say he does pick up on the clues eventually, yeah. And it's sort of in the middle of the movie where that happens.
Yeah, and he kind of confronts her about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she's like, hey, my dad just came up with a new rule. We just have to get my sister to date,
Yeah.
and then we could hang out, basically. And he's like, well, what's her deal? And she's like, well, she used to be popular, and then she just got sick of it. Which, for me, there's a part of me that's like, you're her sister, and you didn't pick up on the fact that something was, like, maybe not great. I understand that, like, she kind of hides it from you, but, like, you never questioned, like, why she suddenly didn't want to be the person that she was.
With how much she is self-centered and focused on only her shit, I was not at all surprised, though. Because Julia Stiles does not tell her on purpose.
Yeah.
Let me talk about how this is pretty obvious because Julia Stiles, as an older sibling, the younger siblings do not give a shit about your feelings or life.
In my experience, that's not true, but like I would say that my sister and I have a much healthier relationship than these two sisters do.
Absolutely. Mikey has some birth order trauma from his childhood, though.
I'm number one. No one can take that away.
Anyhoodle. He basically is like, I bet there's guys that would date her who would take the challenge. I'll find someone. And she's like, you do that for me? Great. We cut to, he's like, I found a bunch of guys that are perfect to date her. And they kind of interview all of them. And they're either laughing or screaming. And one of them just says, maybe if we were the last two people alive and there were no sheep. Are there sheep?
So if you were wondering if this movie had a joke about having sex with sheep in it, yes, it does.
Yes, it was very bad.
I think it's weird that he was specific about it being sheep.
Maybe it's a pop culture thing we're missing.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like, it's a farm thing, but, like, there's a part of me that's like...
I finally understand farmers only. That makes sense.
I think it's funny that he specified only if there were no sheep, are there sheep? And I'm like, he could have picked any animal.
Okay, well, Paige, what animal would you pick?
Yeah, like, that's what I'm wondering.
I just want you to know that I have learned from an episode of Mansers that the animals with genitals most resembling a human's is the dugong, which is a type of manatee. So, you know, that's probably a good choice.
So Paige is fully fantasizing about banging an underwater sea bovine.
I'm just saying that Mansers told me it was a good idea.
I'm feeling uncomfortable since I have the body type of a manatee.
Have you seen how wide a manatee's shoulders are, Mikey? And don't get me started on their sleight of fin.
Do you know how long they can survive in the water tank? Forever.
Don't blame me. It was Mansers. Anyway, they find Heath Ledger stabbing a frog during a dissection.
Yes.
At this point, David Krumholtz is like, hey, that guy is a criminal. Like, he did a year in San Quentin. He sold his liver for a new set of speakers, which I don't think you can live without a liver.
But Paige, can you live without a new set of speakers? Come on.
The liver regenerates better than most organs in the human body, so you can lose like 90% of your liver and it'll grow back.
Really?
But not the whole thing. Yeah, this is a fun fact.
Okay.
You've unlocked a fun fact. Because I eat human livers.
It was either that or dugongs. Are there any dugongs around?
No, but I mean, he'd obviously be dead. But he wouldn't go to San Quentin either because he's a juvenile.
Right.
Yeah, I was like, San Quentin's an adult prison. Anyway, he lights a cigarette on a Bunsen burner.
Because it's high school. That's like high school shit.
It's high school, and, nobody's paying attention to someone smoking in the middle of a classroom with chemicals. They approach him in it looks like a wood and metal shop, although we find out later that he's making stained glass, which I thought was really interesting.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, I'll point it out.
That's a real Andrea from Cult Podcast move. I like it.
It is. I mean, it's a lot of welding and shit.
Yeah.
But so they get to the wood shop, and he just drills through
I love this.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt's French book. Like, perfect circle.
Yeah, I love this because later, like literally 40 minutes later in this movie, he's looking in that French book and there's a perfect circle cut out of every page. And they don't really address it.
Anyway, so they're like, well, he's not going to talk to us, but maybe if we can get him money to do it,
Yeah.
he'll do it.
I like their plan to pull in like an idiot that has money.
A venture capitalist? Yes.
Oof. Yeah, it's a hot take on VCs.
That's what they do.
I know.
We cut to Joey in the cafeteria where he's drawing boobs on a cafeteria tray.
Yes.
And David Krumholtz sits down and he's like, what are you doing here? And he's like, oh, I came to chat. And he's like, we don't chat. And he basically pitches the idea of like, will you pay this guy to go out with Kat so you can go out with Bianca, while Joey draws a dick on his face.
Yes.
And he's like, what's in this for you? And he's like, I don't know, smile at me in the hallway. And he's like, okay, so you're cool by association. Are we done now?
Yeah.
We cut to a really small section of the golf club, which are the same kids from the finance club, where they're just like driving balls down onto the football field.
Yeah, where everyone in the high school is playing a various sport.
Yeah, the extracurricular activity after school that everyone does one or just sits around and watches the rest of them.
A teacher gets shot with an arrow in this movie.
It's my fucking favorite. So they approach Heath Ledger, and there was some rumor of like, didn't he eat a whole duck, everything except the beak and the feet?
And the feet, yeah.
Like, so Joey approaches him and he's like, I had some really good duck last night. And he's just like, do I know you? Like, what is happening?
Okay.
And, do you see that girl, Kat Stratford? Got to go out with her. If you don't, I can't take Bianca out. And he's like, that's not my problem. And he's like, I'll give you generous compensation. How about $20? And I was just like, oh, for $20, fuck this guy.
Hey, $20 is $20.
And it wasn't like $20 and I'll pay for the date. Like, it was legit just $20, which is the equivalent of $31.57 now.
They haggle, they settle on $50.
Right, which is the equivalent of $78.94. Yeah.
So she runs off the soccer field because she's done with practice, and he goes to talk to her, and he's like, I'll pick you up on Friday. And she's like, yeah, okay, Friday, sure. And he's like, yeah, for sure. It's a date. And she's like, okay, sure, it's a date. She kind of blows him off.
Yeah, completely.
And Joseph Gordon-Levitt and David Krumholtz are watching this, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt's like, well, we're screwed. And he's like, I'm going to need more optimism. And he just goes, we are screwed. And he's like, there you go.
So good.
As they're doing that, somebody chips a golf ball down onto the field, which nails the coach in the head.
Yes. This coach suffers multiple injuries over the course of this movie.
And sees Julia Stiles' tits.
Which is illegal, right?
She's a student, so yes.
Yeah.
Hold on now. She flashed the classroom and him. He was just there.
That's true. He was just there. There's a bunch of witnesses. It was just creepy.
Yeah, it's super creepy.
Anyway, we cut back to the Stratford house.
Yes.
And Bianca's like, have you ever considered a new look? Because you look kind of hostile. And she's just like, I'm not. I'm annoyed. I don't care what other people think. And she tells Bianca, you don't have to be who they want you to be.
Right.
And Bianca just says, I like being adored. Thank you.
And goes back to combing her hair.
Right. And this is where we have the conversation about Bianca got mother's pearls because dad found them.
No, I think she found them just in a drawer and didn't even like talk to anybody else about it. Just put them on.
She said dad found them in a drawer.
Okay.
And I think it's just, I'm sure their dad was like, Kat's not going to want these. Like, this isn't who she is. And I think it's just, it's something to remember her mom by, which, by the way, we find out their mom just left.
Yeah.
Like, straight up left, which is crazy. So we cut to seemingly the next day where Julia Stiles is coming out of a store and Heath Ledger is like leaning up against her car and he's just like, hey, and she's like, are you following me? And at this point I was like, how bad does he need that $50?
I know, right?
But he says to her, you're not afraid of me, are you? And she's like, no. And he's like, but you have thought about me naked. And she's just like, am I that transparent? Oh, baby. Oh, baby. Just, she's clearly kidding.
Like eye rolling while she's babying,
like,
which you never want to see. Trust me.
Also, though, it's fucking Heath Ledger, though.
I know.
I mean, and he has an accent in the movie.
He does, and they justify a reason for it. I was
love
so
that.
proud
Yeah,
of
he
them.
didn't have to fake an American accent. Yeah. But I mean, this is how I know Julia Stiles is an amazing actress, because I did believe that her character was not interested in Heath Ledger at the beginning, which is impossible.
Unlocking a fun fact, they dated while this movie was
No
being
shit.
made. Yeah, they did.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, good for her. Getting some of that Joker strange.
Yeah. Let me put a smile on that face. I'm going to make this pencil disappear and also 2 fingers.
And this pool noodle, right, Paige?
Also, have you seen my car keys?
That's where I put my DVD of Head Over Heels.
Julia, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry that we're talking about putting all these things inside you. But would you like to date Mikey?
Yeah, girl, if you're going to have all that inside you, I'll put a baby there too.
Anyway, Joey blocks her in and she backs up, hits his car.
Like, reams it. Yeah.
Yep. And all she has to say about it is, whoops. And we cut back to her house where her dad is like, whoops, my insurance doesn't cover PMS, which is crazy.
It is crazy.
And then she says, just tell them I had a seizure, which is dangerous and scary for people that happens to. It's pretty insensitive of her to say that. But anyway, he's like, are you punishing me? And they're about to get into a conversation about him controlling her life when his beeper goes off.
Yeah.
And Bianca comes home and is like, did you just maim Joey's car? And yells after her dad. Basically, they're kind of ganging up on her about it. We cut to Joey confronting Heath Ledger, basically being like, if you don't get any, I don't get any, so go get some. And Heath Ledger's like, hey, I just upped my price to $100 a date in advance.
Yeah. But fully because he's being a dick. I mean, Heath Ledger does not need, no one at school needs money. They're all rich as shit.
Yeah.
Well, and we find out what he spends that money on later.
Yeah.
So we cut to the wood shop / metal shop where he's kind of welding. And David Krumholtz and Joseph Gordon-Levitt come up and they're like, hey, we're also kind of in on this deal that you have, but we're trying to get with Bianca. And at this point, he's like, what's with this girl? Does she have beer-flavored nipples? Like, what is happening? Which that's not a plus for me.
No. I mean, I've never had beer, but from what I understand, it's an acquired taste. But nipples are not.
I think that depends on the nipple.
You ever had a bad nipple, Mikey?
Yeah. I had a pierced nipple and it tasted like pennies. And it made my
teeth
feeling feel weird.
Were you gnawing on it with your back teeth?
I don't think
I'm not going to let you in on my secrets. A gentleman never tells, Paige.
I mean, they should if they're going to try and use their molars. Anyway, they decide that they're going to help research what Kat likes so that he can trick her into going out with him.
Yeah.
And this is where we kind of see him assembling the pieces of the stained glass that he's making, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
But this is where they're like, you've got to take Kat to Bogey Lowenstein's party. They also dump a bunch of those flyers into the stairwell. We cut to the hallway where Joey is comparing headshots with Bianca, where he's like, hey, black shirt, white shirt. And they're clearly the same photo with 2 different shirts.
Yeah, they are absolutely the same photo. It is ridiculous.
And my favorite is he he says, you go into that bogey low bro thing where he just doesn't know his last name.
Well, this is the party that Michael set up because the initial flyer was like future NBAs only or whatever.
Right.
And they took that off and put free beer all night.
Right.
Yeah. So nobody knows this dude really. He's like a nerd at the school or whatever.
So she says that she'll be there. And as she walks away, he winks at himself in his locker mirror. We cut to Cameron and Bianca, who go into Kat's room when she's not there and basically dig through her desk, look at her class schedule, say that she has black panties, which means nothing. They just come in black. I don't know why they thought that was so important.
Yeah, like all my boxes are black.
Yeah. And they reveal that she had a picture of Jared Leto.
Yeah.
Leto in her nightstand, which I think is a little out of character, but sure.
Oh, I think it's funny because Cameron asks, well, do you think she might be gay? Which is like a fair question. If she's just fully not interested, that's fine. But she's like, no, I found a picture of Jared Leto in her nightstand. So I think she's, straight. That's the reason they bring that up. Yeah.
Well, and also that's what leads them to think that she likes pretty boys.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which Jared Leto is a pretty boy.
Very much so.
Yeah. And I mean that like as a compliment.
Yeah. He also asks to see Bianca's room. And
I loved this because Bianca's like, no, you can't go into a girl's room. It's very private.
Yeah, and they're in Kat's room.
They're B&Eing her sister's room at the moment.
Then he and Joseph Gordon-Levitt and David Krumholtz go to a bar to basically meet up with Heath Ledger, which I don't know how he's in a bar drinking when he's clearly max 18. I guess, depending on what your drinking age is, because we don't establish exactly where this is, but like...
Yeah, in my headcanon, it's just in a country, kind of like the Hallmark movies are in like a weird country that doesn't exist with big castles, but it's like a teen movie like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, they tell him that she doesn't like smokers, and so he'll have to stop smoking, and they're like, she likes pretty guys, and he says... Am I not pretty? And I, in my notes, was like, he's very pretty.
Yeah, bro,
and
you're like very hot.
Bro, yes.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, you're pretty. And also, I don't know if you know, but she has black underwear. And he looks at them like they're crazy, which I think is funny that he's just like, why would you think that's important? Like, okay.
He's like, what's underwear?
So they tell him that he has to go to Club Skunk, because that's where her favorite band is playing.
Yes.
And he goes, and I did something kind of interesting in this scene. Mini fun fact. I counted how many guys are in this scene.
Oh, yeah?
In the entire room, for the entirety of this 5 or 10 minute scene, including Heath Ledger, there are 10 guys in the entire room.
Okay.
4 of them are on stage. 1 of them is a bartender.
Wow. Okay.
And then another one is Heath Ledger. So like guys scattered around the room, only 4.
That's amazing.
Yep. And the band is Letters from Cleo, who, not a huge band at the time. They had a couple hits. They're definitely on this soundtrack, but I would say most famous for providing the soundtrack for Josie and the Pussycats, which is amazing. So it's pretty much all girls. She's dancing and then comes to the bar to get some water.
I think you mean Agua, Paige?
Agua?
Yeah. She walks up to him and she's like, what are you doing here? And he just goes, hey, you're sort of ruining this for me. Do you mind?
Yeah.
He like blows her off completely.
Yeah. But he follows her out on the dance floor. He name drops a couple of bands that she likes. He tells her that she looks sexy out there dancing and literally does it as the music ends. But it picks up again and he asks her to come to the party and he's like, is that a no? Yes. And she's like, no. And he says, was that a no? And she says, no. Which to me was like, maybe. Like he's wearing her down.
That's fully a yes. Not in court. I was going to say not in court.
You heard it here from Todd, folks. No is yes.
No. What she said was, when he said, is that a yes? She said no. Was that a no? She said no, which is fully a maybe.
Yep.
Yeah. Saved it.
Back at the house, Bianca and her friend are trying to sneak out to the party, and they're trying to tell their dad that it's just a small study group. And they say, it's just a party. And he says, and hell is just a sauna.
Right before that, when they go, it's just a study group, he goes, do you mean orgy? And then Gabrielle Union goes, it's just a party. And he goes, yeah, and hell is just a sauna. He's amazing in this movie.
Yeah, but so they are trying to argue to go. They beg Kat to take them. She agrees.
And it seems like she forgot that she told Heath Ledger, maybe.
Yeah.
Because she opens the door to take them, and he's out there. She's like, what the fuck are you doing here? He's like, I thought you said 9:30. I'm a bit early, but geez.
Yeah. But before they go, their dad makes Bianca wear the belly.
Oh, I loved it.
I wear the belly every day.
Same. He says, whenever you think about kissing a boy, picture this. And it's like third trimester.
Yeah.
Like, it's intense.
I love the way she reacts to him saying, I need you to wear the belly. Because she protests, obviously, but knows she has to. But she puts out her arms way before he brings it to her. Like, she has done this many times.
He has it in like the downstairs coat closet. It takes him like 5 seconds to get it.
Yeah, it's great.
My favorite, too, is he starts listing out all the things that he's like, no drinking, no kissing, no drugs, no ritual animal slaughters. Yeah. He's like, well, now I'm giving you ideas.
I honestly want his movie when he was in high school because it sounds like they had a fucking nuts time.
Well, what was crazy, my favorite is, so she opens the door, Heath Ledger's there, and he looks into the house and he just goes, who knocked up your sister? So good. So we cut to Joseph Gordon-Levitt and David Krumholtz getting ready to go to the party. And they're just nerding it up hardcore. Yeah. They have no idea how to be cool. They're debating whether or not they should wear ties.
You shouldn't.
Oh, my gosh.
No.
When you see them at the party later, especially Michael, man, he looks awful in what he's wearing.
Well, he's also just ruining it. He is being the worst at this party.
Yeah, but he's wearing a 3-piece button-down blazer and has all 3 buttons buttoned. I don't care how many buttons you have. Unless it's a 1-button suit, you never button the bottom button. That's like a rule.
Yeah, usually 1-button suits are lady suits too, right?
Yeah, but I've seen a few on a certain show that I like to watch that RuPaul wears from time to time.
Oh, I was gonna say, are you watching Gigolos on Showtime? Because same.
No, well, okay, yeah, but no, I've seen RuPaul rock some suits in the before runway sections where I'm like, I'd wear that.
His Klein Epstein Parker. I think it's Klein Epstein.
I think you're
Parker
right.
suit?
Yeah, some of those suits are awesome. I'm just saying, you never button the bottom button unless it's a 1-button suit.
Yes, thank you, Hillary.
So we cut to the party, and Bogey is clearly having like a tiny soiree for his fancy friends and is a total square, and he's telling them not to touch anything. Oh. The doorbell rings and he says, oh, that must be Nigel with the brie. And it is instant mayhem.
Yeah. Yes, the only thing he's going to get at this party is debris.
That's true. That is true. They do break a window.
Mikey, oh my God, my side. Oh.
Patient laugh.
I love when you write jokes.
Now when I sit down to do a joke with a movie, I'm just like, what's the worst joke I could make about
That's what
this
you
movie?
should always... No joke, Mikey. Don't change the thing. No notes.
Okay.
No cuts. So it's instant mayhem. And as people kind of come in, party it up, we kind of cut around to the different groups of people that we're following at this party.
Yeah.
And the first one we get is David Krumholtz as Michael, and he approaches a group of girls and just says, you know, I'm thinking of getting a Tercel. Yeah, that's a Toyota.
Ridiculous. And then he follows her when she like ignores him and walks away, and he's like, oh, it's got a very spacious back seat.
Oh, God. We then cut to Heath Ledger, who is looking for Julia Stiles.
Yeah.
And as he walks down the hallway, a girl from the English class just collapses into his arms and just says, kiss me. And he just says, kiss him, and just kind of pawns her off to another dude. And she just goes, okay, and starts making out with that dude.
I love that other dude. That other dude has 2 lines in this movie and ruins them both. It's amazing. I mean that in, like in a good way. He like rocks both of those lines because it's like, right here, he's like bending her over and kissing her, and he looks up at Heath Ledger and goes, hey, thanks, man, and then drops her.
Right.
And then picks her back up. And then later we see him again, just as a nothing. He's like, Heath Ledger's walking by again, and he stops Heath, and he goes, seriously, man, thank you.
Thank you.
It's so great. Best wingman ever.
We cut to Joey, who encounters Kat. Kat says, hey, Joey, did your hairline just recede? Which is like, ooh, chilling to the core, because he immediately checks
He does
it.
check, yeah. I was about to say, it's not a great line, but he checks.
Yeah, and he asks if her sister is here, and she says, stay away from her. And as she's doing it, there's a fight that breaks out. They crash through the window into the backyard. And as she turns back around from the fight, Bianca and Joey have found each other.
Yeah.
And she tries to stop Bianca and is like, hey, there's something I need to tell you. And Bianca blows her off. So she takes a huge shot, and Heath Ledger kind of catches up with her and is like, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm getting trashed. Like, do what you want to do, right? Later, like, she's gonna party. She's over it. Then we cut back to Michael, who dances up behind another group of girls and just says, Lord of the Dance.
He's not dancing, Paige.
Oh.
He's fully just hopping up and down like Michael Flatley.
Yeah. And the girls just say, bite me, and leave. And then he says, I should have kept the tie. I'm like, it's not the tie, dude.
Yeah.
It's not about it.
Oh.
So Joseph Gordon-Levitt is walking around looking for Bianca, and he kind of comes up on her as she's going back upstairs to be with Joey, and he kind of realizes, like, oh, she didn't want to be with me at all. It was always about being with Joey. So as he kind of walks away, Joey is posing next to a pyramid of beer cans and just, like, being a douche. And I think Bianca gets tired of him, is what it is.
Yeah, I think she sees through it. She's like, why was I ever into this?
Yeah.
He is the male version of me.
Yeah. So she sees Cameron in the crowd, and he just kind of walks away because he's kind of over it. So she turns to Gabrielle Union and is like, is it me or does this party suck?
Yeah.
Then this is where Heath Ledger walks past the really, really thank you guy.
I love him.
Who's kissing that girl.
He's so good. Probably never
but
worked again, but should have won an Oscar for this performance.
Yep. He tries to take Kat's drink. She refuses. And she ends up dancing on the table to Hypnotize by Notorious B.I.G. Classic.
Yes.
And she's killing it.
Yeah. She was auditioning for Save the Last Dance right around this time, so
That-
she
I
knew what
was
she
gonna
was
say
doing.
the same exact thing.
Yeah.
She got that job off this dance scene.
Is that a real fun fact?
That's a fun fact.
Not at
for
all
later,
surprised,
Awesome.
but yeah.
Yeah, because she's killing it.
Yeah, she is.
She hits her head on the chandelier and collapses into Heath Ledger's arms. And she's like, I'm fine. And he's like, no, you're concussed.
Yeah.
Like, you need to know. So he takes her outside. Joseph Gordon-Levitt comes up to him and is like, hey, the whole thing is off. She wasn't interested in me. She just kind of led me on. And he's like, well, is she worth it? Do you like her? Don't make anyone feel like you don't deserve what you want. Like,
It's
if
great
you
advice.
like her, go after her.
Yeah.
So
I wish there was more interaction between Heath Ledger and the other guys.
And Joseph Gordon-Levitt,
Me
Michael,
too.
yeah, same.
but he walks Julia Stiles outside to try and kind of get her some air and keep her awake because she has a fucking concussion. She ends up throwing up on his feet,
Yeah.
which at this point I was like, she needs to go to a hospital, man. Like, she had a head injury. She's vomiting. She's fading in and out of consciousness. I know she's also drunk, but like,
Yeah, the thing she's doing is not just from being drunk.
no, she is concussed.
Yeah. But I mean, they do sort of bond on the swing set.
Right. And back at the party, Bianca is like, I have to be home in 20 minutes. And Joey wants her to come to another party, and she says no. So Chastity goes instead.
Yeah.
And she gets Cameron to give her a ride home.
Yeah.
We cut to Heath Ledger driving Julia Stiles home, which, again, I just need the soundtrack because the music in this movie is great.
It is sort of great. And if you watch this scene, they pull in and then they don't talk for like 2 seconds or 3 seconds because the song needs to finish.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I was like, I've done that. I've been like, hey, I know you're here and this is your car that I'm driving home because you're drunk and I should be getting out of it right now, but I want to finish this song.
Yeah, but this soundtrack slaps.
Yeah.
But he kind of asks her, like, what's the deal with your dad? You know, what's going on? And she feels like her dad wants her to be Bianca. And he's like, no offense. Like, I know everybody likes Bianca, but she's kind of, he says
She's without.
But he means she's vapid and shallow.
Yeah.
Basically. And she is like, you're not as vile as I thought you were, and leans in for a kiss. And he says, maybe we should do this another time.
Yeah, because in his mind, he was like, you threw up 20 minutes ago.
Yes! Thank you!
Yeah.
She gets real upset about it, but I'm like, girl, vomit though.
I know.
Like,
Oh, maybe she got some gum or whatever, but she's still drunk. He was just being a gentleman.
Okay, yes. Also, he is being a gentleman, fully agree. But also,
Yeah.
she just threw up.
Yeah.
Let's take a beat, throw balloons of paint at each other, and then make out in hay.
It's called puke and rally, okay?
Mikey is single, ladies.
And he loves 90s electronic.
By the way, I'm literally looking at the 10 Things I Hate About You soundtrack on Spotify, and there isn't a song on here I have not made out to.
Ooh.
Mm.
Jurassic Park soundtrack on there? Yeah, nice. So Joseph Gordon-Levitt takes Bianca home, and this is where he lectures her on, like, you could have just said you weren't interested.
Yeah.
And my counter to that is, I don't know if he would have listened.
I don't think he would have listened, but he did finally voice his opinion of her.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it super turns her on, apparently, because she kisses him.
Yeah, which is, that kind of troubled me a little bit, that her takeaway from this is, I should kiss you, and not, I should reevaluate the way that I treat people.
That's a red flag.
I think it would have been, if they had a talk and then kiss, this scene would have worked. But she doesn't respond to his rant at all except to kiss him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
which to me could have been like more manipulation.
Yeah, I figured it was. I kind of was she's the villain of this movie.
That, or she has some unresolved daddy issues, and the first male that was also authoritative with her, she latched onto immediately.
Yeah.
Which is another red flag.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, people always get mad at women for having daddy issues, but not the dad for instilling those issues to begin with.
I have plenty of issues. I'm just saying I wanted them to talk more. We're getting off track.
Yeah. No, I agree. It felt manipulative to me.
To sell the romance of their plot.
Yeah, I don't really feel like they have a lot of romance.
I don't think so either. We could talk about it at the end, but I don't think they're still together.
No.
So back at school, everyone is kind of a dick about her dancing. Like, they're doing that thing where they congratulate someone facetiously.
Yeah. They're like, how much do we owe you for the table dance?
Yeah. This is where she gets the assignment to write a sonnet, and she's like, oh, I actually really want to do this. And he's like, weird, get out of my classroom.
Yeah, he kicks her out every time she's in class.
My favorite part of teen comedies is like having a 3-minute segment be the whole class. Like it starts off with them coming into class, and then it immediately ends as well with something happening in between.
Yeah, where like the teacher walks in and then she's just writing on the board and then she backs away and you just see that it says September 11th, 2001.
Oh, that movie is terrible. Guys, if you haven't yet listened to our Remember Me episode, please stop now and go listen to it.
Never forget that episode.
Oh my God.
Anyway, we cut to the hallway.
Yeah.
Where Bianca smiles at Cameron. We cut to David Krumholtz approaches Kat's friend, who's super into Shakespeare, and asks what the collar is for to keep him from licking his stitches.
Honestly,
which is great.
It's a great line.
I mean, if you will remember from our Shakespeare in Love episode, everyone was wearing sparkly dog cones.
Yeah.
He recites Macbeth to her, and he's using this to find out if Kat hates Heath Ledger.
Yeah.
So we cut to he and Joseph Gordon-Levitt are talking to Heath Ledger, and he tells them we didn't do anything because she would have been too drunk to remember because he's a gentleman and very sweet.
Yeah.
And then Joseph Gordon-Levitt says, oh, Bianca kissed me. And he says, where? And he says, in the car. So as they're all talking, she kicks a ball at them.
Okay, so she kicks a ball at them because Heath Ledger says, maybe we should give it a day.
Yeah.
And then she kicks the ball at him and he goes, all right, maybe 2 days.
Yeah. We cut to her and her friend leaving school that day, and she tears down a prom poster, which she's done now twice in this movie, just tears down prom posters.
And the same girl has gone, hey, behind her.
Well, it's the girl who ends up making out with that other guy at the party.
Oh my God, Paige just blew my mind.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, cool. Sorry.
So her friend is like, we should go. I would, but I don't have a date. Julia Stiles is like, we're not going to go. We're making a statement. And she's like, oh, great. Something new and different for us. Basically, like, we're always making a statement. Why can't we just have fun? We cut to the field where they are doing archery for PE.
Yeah.
And Joey distracts Bianca and she fires an arrow, shooting the gym teacher in the back.
Yeah. It's like in his butt cheek.
Yeah, it's in his gluteus
It
maximus.
narrowly misses his spine, though.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
That guy was almost paralyzed.
Yes. This is also the last day they do archery at this school.
Oh, for sure. We cut to Heath Ledger and Joey talking, and he doesn't want to take the money anymore, but Joey offers him more money, so he takes it. He goes to the guitar store and kind of stalks Julia Stiles as she's trying out a guitar to play.
It's the one he buys later on for her.
He follows her to a bookstore where he kind of follows her through the shelves, and he tries to ask her out again, and they basically have this whole back and forth of him being like, you're not as mean as you think you are. And she's like, you're not as badass as you think. We cut back to school. She's still pissed. And he is talking to Joseph Gordon-Levitt and David Krumholtz in the cafeteria.
Yeah.
And they basically are like, you've got to do something to win her back, because everything is riding on this. So he gives money to one of the guys from band, gets a microphone, and sings over the loudspeakers to her. And then the marching band chimes in. And I don't know about you guys. I don't know if you've ever been sung to. It's the most awkward shit ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. It only works in movies.
I love this, though.
This might be the
yeah.
iconic scene of the movie.
Oh, it 100% is. If you talk to anyone about this movie, they think about Heath Ledger patting that cop on the butt as he's running through the stands trying to get away from them, as he's singing, I love you, baby, and if it's quite all right, I need you, baby, to warm the lonely nights. It's so good. It's such a good song. And
his last
he
note's a
crushes
little
it.
rough, but overall...
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's not the best singer in the world. I do respect that he is doing it and they don't auto-tune
He's fully
it.
doing it. Yeah, and they don't auto-tune it.
Yeah.
And he does it all right.
I love it.
Originally, it was a different song, and we'll talk about it in Fun Facts a little bit.
Really?
But he makes a run for it. He gets detention, and the same gym teacher who got shot with the arrow is doing detention. That's why he can't sit down on that desk.
Oh my God, I love it so much.
Oh.
But he confiscates some pot from another student and Cheetos.
Cheetos. Yeah, that is so great.
And Kat comes up to him and distracts him so Heath Ledger can get away. And she eventually does it by flashing the gym teacher, which is pretty upsetting and kind of dicey.
Which I think was pretty out of her character, too.
Me too. Yeah.
Same.
I think what would make the scene worse is if he had just smoked and was trying to eat the Cheetos and this was happening. And he was just like,
Where'd you get those orange handprints on your boobs?
what is happening?
So we cut to later that day where she's helped him get out of detention, and they're on paddle boats, just kind of talking, and they happen upon, it says paintball, but it's basically like paint balloons.
Yeah. I mean, they probably shoot paintball there too, but they didn't want it to seem so violent, so they just filled like balloons with paint.
Right. So they're in like what look like white paint suits, like paint onesies. Onesies?
Paint overalls.
Paint coveralls.
Coveralls, that's the one. Yeah.
My brain was like, romper? Question mark? And they're running around kind of this little obstacle course, throwing paint at each other. Very cute.
It is very cute.
Yeah, they fall into a pile of hay and end up making out, which is very cute.
It is very cute. I was into it.
Yeah, then we cut to them basically getting home to her house, and they're just kind of confirming or denying all the rumors they've heard about each other, which I think is very cool.
Yeah, I really like this scene.
And I love how she was like, oh, and I know the porn career is fake because you grinded up against me when we were making out, I could tell.
And they end up kissing a little bit on the porch basically of her house.
Yeah.
And he asks her to prom, and she's just like, no, why do you want to go to prom? And he's like, no one would expect you to go. You should go. And she gets suspicious, and he's like, why do I need a motive to go with you? I just want to hang out with you. And so they kind of have a fight and leave. And he leaves. She goes back inside. We cut to Bianca and Cameron for French tutoring. And she's suddenly super good at French, and he's using a book with a hole in it.
Yeah, that's the book. That's the hole I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
So do you think this scene's supposed to mean like she was pretending to be dumb the whole time?
No, I think she was learning French to get him to like her.
No, I mean, she actually needed a French tutor before she even met him. I think she just is better at French because she's actually taking French. He is not. But she's pissed because he, even though she kissed him in the car, has not asked her out on another date.
Right. And says it en français.
Yeah, and he has no idea what she's saying.
Not a clue.
I love how the scene ends with him saying shit in French.
Merde.
Yeah.
So we cut to, in the hallway, Kat's friend, the Shakespeare one, is opening her locker and finds like a Shakespearean dress in her locker.
Yes.
With a note asking her to prom from, it just says William S., as in William Shakespeare. We cut back to the Stratford household where Bianca approaches her dad, who's working out in the backyard.
Would you call what he's doing working out?
I would call it shooting a resistance band through a neighbor's window.
Bob's window. Bob returns it.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Her dad's like, no, I know you want to bend the rules for Joey. If Kat's not going, you're not going. I know what happens at prom, basically.
Yeah.
And he claims that he knows what happens at prom from those Dawson's River kids.
Oh, such a good show.
Never seen it.
And accuses her of wanting to get jiggy with a boy, which is very fun. We cut to Bianca's bedroom where she's watching The Real World Seattle. Kat comes in and she basically tells her, like, hey, I know you're mad at me because I'm not going to prom, but also I need to tell you something about Joey. He didn't tell you that we went out in 9th grade and we slept together.
Yeah.
And then I told him I didn't want to do it again. I didn't feel comfortable doing it. And he broke up with me. And she was like, how did I not know? And she was like, well, I told him if he told, then the cheerleading squad would find out how small his dick is. She goes, but also I wanted you to make up your own mind. And I guess I kind of thought I was protecting you because not all experiences are good.
Yeah. But I don't think Bianca handles this super well. This is like a
No,
very
she's
vulnerable
No.
conversation her older sister is having, and she like storms to the door and shows her sister out. It's not great.
Well, and also I'm like, how does it not upset you that it seems as if this guy's trying to like complete a set?
I mean,
Like,
not to defend fully the villain in this movie, but sometimes you find yourself dating the older sister of someone you dated 2 years ago, and that just happens.
I don't know about that.
that's never happened to me.
Well, why would you date two sisters, Paige?
You don't know my life. It would be brothers, but whatever.
I feel attacked by this conversation.
Yeah, once I date someone, I'm not going back to the same house.
That's true. Because Mikey doesn't know where that house is because he's only been there once and took an Uber away in the night.
And I told the Uber driver to blindfold me because I don't even want to know my way back.
Wow.
Just dropping like takeout croutons on the road as breadcrumbs. Anyway, we cut to later that night and Kat gets dressed up and leaves because she's basically going to the prom. And so does Bianca because Cameron shows up to take her to the prom.
Yeah, it's real cute.
Yeah, so essentially Kat's doing this to give her sister that experience.
Yeah.
We cut to the prom and my first thought was like, oh, this band is pretty good. And then I realized it was Say Ferris. And I was like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
no, of course.
that
they're
makes sense.
pretty
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they might get a record deal.
Yeah, maybe someday. Also, I really like Bianca's prom dress.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
This was a thing when I was in, this was a thing when I was in like middle school.
Okay.
Formal separates. And I don't know why. And it's kind of come back a little bit now. But like my mom kept trying to talk me into doing something like that for like 8th grade banquet or whatever it was at the time. And I was very self-conscious about the way my body looked in a dress like that. But now I look at it and I'm like, man, she's fucking rocking that shit.
Yeah.
Anyway, Kat goes to prom and Heath Ledger's there and he has a tux at the last minute. And she has a dress at the last minute. And they basically apologize. Like, I'm sorry I questioned your motives.
Yeah.
Let's have a good time. So Joey shows up at the house to pick up Beyonce.
Beyonce, who is fully 46 years old, allegedly.
Yes. Joey shows up to pick up Bianca. And their dad just closes the door in Joey's face, which is amazing.
Doesn't say anything. It's so great.
It's pretty great. But we cut back to prom where Kat's friend is in that Shakespearean dress and she's like, have you seen William Shakespeare? Where is he? He told me to meet him here. And she turns and it's David Krumholtz dressed like Austin Powers. I think he just went for like fancy British, but it looks like Austin Powers.
Yeah. Well, which is fancy British.
Yep. Then we get letters from Cleo in a like cameo appearance at the prom to play Cruel to Be Kind.
Because Heath called in a favor.
Right, and also because their cover of Cruel to Be Kind was famous at the time.
Oh, okay.
But they end up kissing, and as they're kind of making their way through the prom, Bianca runs into Chastity in the bathroom, who basically we find out Joey just picked up Chastity, and she's like, he only liked you for one reason. He was going to nail you tonight.
Yeah.
Basically, like, he was going to complete the set, basically.
Yeah.
And we cut back to Kat and Heath Ledger dancing, and he tells her the reason I was gone last year is because my grandfather was ill and I was taking care of him.
Yeah.
The more we learn about him, the more we're just like,
He's great.
He's
a
actually
great
a good guy.
I
Yeah.
like him so much. Anyway, Joey confronts him on the dance floor, and he's like, hey, I didn't pay you to take Kat out so a punk could snake Bianca. And Kat realizes that's what's happening.
Yeah, immediately, because she
leaves.
overhears it. Yeah.
Yeah, David Krumholtz comes over to Bianca and Cameron and is like, the shith hath hitteth the fanneth, because I
Baby.
guess, baby, yeah,
Yeah,
baby.
baby.
So Joey and Cameron get into an argument. He punches Cameron, and then Bianca gets up and punches him multiple times, breaking his nose
And knees him in the crotch.
and knees him in the crotch. But that's for my date, that's for my sister, and that's for me.
Yeah.
We cut to Heath Ledger is trying to catch up with Julia Stiles, and he's like, I didn't care about the money. I cared about you. He tries to kiss her. She says no. She runs away.
Yeah.
Rookie mistake. Don't ever try to kiss someone when they're mad at you.
No, it's never. It
don't
never
do
goes
that.
well. Yeah.
No.
You need consent for every kiss.
For every kiss, there is consent.
Every kiss requires consent. Yeah.
Holy shit.
So we cut to the next day. She's sitting outside drawing, and Bianca and Cameron are going to go sailing.
Yeah.
And Bianca basically says, hey, I don't know if I ever thank you for going, but it meant a lot to me. So thank you. Thank you for letting me go. And her dad comes out as Bianca's leaving and is like, where's Bianca going? And Kat's like, I don't know, meeting some bikers, big ones, full of sperm. And they kind of just talk a little bit about the dance. And she tells him that Bianca beat the hell out of Joey.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm kind of impressed. And he says to her, a lot of time parents don't want to admit when their kids can run their own lives. And I worry that when you move away, I won't get to be part of your life at all.
It's a really
And she's
sweet, like father-daughter
Yeah.
moment, man. It's really sweet. I love it.
And she's like, what do you mean when I go to Sarah Lawrence? And he's like, I already sent them a check. You're going.
Yeah, like,
And
please
she's-
don't back out now.
So we cut back to school where they're presenting their sonnets, and Joey has to take his glasses off. He's got the black eyes, and Julia Stiles reads her sonnet and ends up crying at the end, and it's just
And so do I. Yeah. Yeah. I can never make it through all
She
10.
doesn't hate him at all.
I know.
Yeah,
I literally cry every time I watch this.
same.
Because I have a heart, Mikey.
I didn't cry.
Yeah, and it's basically her being like her breaking down her walls. But so
Yes.
she comes out to her car, and there's a guitar in the front seat because that's what he spent the money on that they paid him to go out with her.
Yeah.
And he basically is like, yeah, people were paying me to go out with you, but then I fell for you. So it's not every day that you meet a girl who will flash to get you out of detention. And she says, you can't just buy me a guitar whenever you screw up. And he's like, but I could also buy drums and eventually a
bass.
tambourine.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really good.
So as the camera pulls away, we see on basically the roof of the school, Letters from Cleo is playing,
And that's the movie. Also, as they pan up to Letters to Cleo playing, there's a fight that breaks out between hockey players in the parking lot. Did you guys notice
Yes,
that?
and rollerblades.
No,
Yes.
I didn't
Yeah.
see that. That's amazing.
Yeah, they're like fully like fighting. It does not look staged to me. Like they're throwing hockey sticks at each other.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Now that we've seen it, now that we talked about it, what are some final thoughts when you watched it this time?
It held up.
It really
I liked
did.
it.
It really did.
Yeah, I enjoyed it quite a bit.
My only complaint is there wasn't enough Allison Janney in it. That's my only complaint.
Yes.
Here's my fear. Because one of these days, one of these movies is not going to hold up.
Yeah.
And I liked She's All That. I like
when
this
we get
movie.
to John Hughes, things are not going to
Oh,
hold
well,
up.
those are, but I mean like our era. Like if
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
John Hughes is before us, technically.
if Can't
Yeah.
Hardly Wait doesn't hold up anymore, I will be very depressed.
A person that we were going to have as a guest asked to do Can't Hardly Wait and then changed their mind and wanted to do a Walk to Remember. I was like,
Whoa.
oh man,
Oh, wow. Okay. Cool.
that's gonna get dark, but sure. I really liked it. It did hold up. Yeah, I feel like I'll watch this more often because it had been a long time since I'd watched this. Because it wasn't one that I was super into in high school. I just kind of tangentially liked it. I always liked She's All That way more. But I feel like having watched this more as an adult, or now as an adult, I would watch it again. Soon,
Yeah, I
probably.
definitely think I liked it more now than I did as a kid. I mean,
Yeah,
as a
definitely.
younger person.
Yeah, I would watch this a lot more. I haven't seen it in years, but I really, really dug it. Did you guys see the message in the Facebook group from Ashley about how she watches this every year on Heath Ledger's birthday because she loves Heath Ledger and loves this movie, and this is the movie that made him sort of a household name or a heartthrob, right? I thought that was so sweet.
Is this your favorite Heath Ledger movie?
I don't think so.
What is your favorite Heath Ledger movie?
I honestly think he's an amazing Joker, and that's such a good
He's great.
movie.
He's great in Joker.
That's a great movie, but have you seen The Four Feathers?
I haven't.
I have not seen Four Feathers. Mine is Knight's Tale. I
No,
love
Knight's Tale Knight's Tale
Tale
is his best movie.
Yeah, agreed.
I don't know that we could argue it's his best movie. It's just more rewatchable, I
Yeah.
think, than a lot of movies.
Because Knight's Tale has Alan Tudyk in it. It's got
And Paul
Vision in
Bettany.
it. Paul Bettany's in it. Yeah, it's so good. I love it.
Yep. And Richard Purfoy.
Ooh.
And what's his butt? Rufus Sewell.
Yeah, it's so good. Even though Rufus Sewell is the villain, but so good. But Paige, do you have some fun facts for us?
I do. So the title of
Nice.
this movie is actually based on a diary entry that the screenwriter wrote in high school about a guy that she had a crush on, her
Oh my
boyfriend in high school.
God, that's adorable.
Yeah, things I hate about Anthony was what it was. It was 10 things I hate about Anthony. And so when she and her co-writer decided to write this script, she went through a bunch of her high school diaries to kind of get all the angsty memories. And when she read that list out, her co-writer was like, "Oh, that's the title of this movie."
Yeah.
So Heath Ledger was not the only person considered for that role. Do you want to take guesses as to who the other two were? Because he had not done an American film yet at this point.
Oh man. I honestly can't remember who was a heartthrob around this time.
Mikey, you got a guess?
Tobey Maguire.
No, but that is a good guess. No, it was Josh Hartnett and
Oh.
Ashton Kutcher.
Yeah. Honestly, I could see both of them in this role.
I feel like Ashton Kutcher's too goofy, but I could see Josh Hartnett.
Josh Hartnett would
100%.
nail this role.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He would nail it. The scene where she reads the 10 Things poem was shot in one take.
Wow.
And Julia Stiles cried on command.
Yeah, she's an actress, man. She's great.
Yeah. And Julia Stiles is also the one who suggested that they sing Frankie Valli's Can't Take My Eyes Off of You. The song in the original script was I Think I Love You by the Partridge Family.
I think I love you.
So what am I so afraid of?
I'm afraid
that
of. Such a
I'm
great
not
song.
sure of. A love there is no cure for.
Those are both good songs, though.
Yeah, they're both
Yeah.
great. And both sort of the same era. I'm into it. That's great.
Yeah. And so the table dance scene, we talked about this, is part of why Julia Stiles was cast in Save the Last Dance 2 years later.
So great.
So they revealed in the 10th anniversary commentary on the DVD re-release that Heath Ledger and Julia Stiles dated during filming but broke up while the film was basically coming out. So nobody really knew about it. It was too late.
Oh.
Okay, so in the end credits, where letters to Cleo, when they're performing on the roof of that school, it cost $500,000 every time the helicopter took off. So they had to try and get it in as few takes as possible.
Oh my God.
What?
Yeah.
That
Yep.
shot would have been one of the cheapest if done now.
Yeah.
Because I would do it with my $800
You do it
drone.
with a drone.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. There was no way up onto the roof. So they had to take a helicopter up there no matter what.
Well, okay, so when I was watching this with with Natalie, I said setting up that drum set, getting all the gear up there just for that drum set would have taken hours and been a nightmare.
Yeah, and they can't play live. You can't hear it. So it's just for show.
Yeah.
So originally Julia Stiles and Larissa Oleynik wanted to play opposite roles. So they wanted to switch parts.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know how well that would have gone, honestly.
I
But
don't think it would have gone great because Julia Stiles does look fully 2 years older than her.
yeah. I do have little bit of insight into something we talked about earlier in the film.
Oh.
Despite playing a high schooler, Gabrielle Union was 26 when they filmed this.
Okay.
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
Okay, cool. She looks pretty young, though, so good for her.
Good for her. Heath Ledger was also Julia Stiles' first on-screen kiss.
Aw.
Very sweet.
Aw.
And Allison Janney, who portrays Ms. Perky, at one point in the film, she's talking to Julia Stiles, and she says, "Cat," and then picks up a mug that says "Cat."
I
and
love
goes,
that.
"Oh,
I
cat."
love that so much.
Meow. That was improvised in the moment, and they kept that tape.
God, I love her so much. She's a national treasure. I love her
Oh,
so much.
I thought that was totally on purpose.
Improv, baby.
Improv. Now, after this film, Heath Ledger was actually offered a ton of different roles in teen movies and turned all of them down because he didn't want to be pigeonholed.
Yeah.
Also, the car that Julia Stiles drives in this movie, he owned. It was his car at the time.
Really?
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild. I think the next movie he did was like The Patriot or something like that. It was nothing like
Yeah.
this. Because Knight's Tale is sort of a teen movie, but that was like 2 years after this.
Yeah, that was
I
a
do
while
like
after.
The Patriot.
Yeah.
So the two women who wrote this movie, you might be interested to know, also wrote a screen adaptation for a very famous movie that came out 2 years later, starring Reese Witherspoon. That was Legally Blonde.
No shit.
Yeah.
Ah.
Okay. Awesome.
Yep. Andrew Keegan, who plays Joey, cult leader of note, didn't know how to draw a dick, so David Krumholtz had to teach him how to draw one onto his own face.
What?
He was also, Andrew Keegan was supposedly a massive flirt on set, which is kind of funny.
Andrew Keegan is the cult leader?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, he's just never seen one that's that long before, Mikey. So he didn't realize it would go from the cheek to the mouth. Yeah.
There was a television adaptation of the movie that was released in 2009, but the show only lasted for one season, and the only person to reprise their role was Kat and Bianca's father, Larry Miller.
Awesome.
And just one last fun fact, that the cast got along so well that they would actually go to concerts together and dinner in between breaks and filming, so they saw the Beastie Boys and Pearl Jam as a cast.
That's
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those are your fun facts.
Well, thank you for those fun facts, Paige. Do you guys want to do some box office?
Yes.
All right. So this movie came out in 1999, and the production budget was, well, I'll let you guess. What do you think the production budget was for 10 Things I Hate About You?
I think this was actually probably kind of expensive because this is 90s teen movie heyday, and we already know that they blew the entire budget on Letters to Cleo on the roof of that school.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this is 25 mil.
Okay, Mikey, what do you think?
$18 million.
Mikey is closer. It was $13 million.
Oh, wow.
But if you adjust for inflation, Paige, that's $20 million. So you were close.
Okay.
And it came out on April 2nd, 1999. It was number 2 at the box office that weekend. It was beat by The Matrix, that also premiered that week.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I see why it was
I've
number
heard
2.
of that movie. Yeah.
A quick aside, the dumbest thing I've ever said ever in my life was after I watched The Matrix, probably this weekend. I walked out of the theater and said, I have to stay alive until they finish the trilogy. But that's the dumbest phrase I've ever said in my life.
That's true, because that trilogy does not pay off.
Well, hindsight bias is 2020.
Sure. Anyway, so 10 Things I Hate About You was obviously number 2. The Out of Towners was number 3. All 3 of those movies premiered that week. The 4th movie was Analyze This, and then Forces of Nature rounds out your top 5. But what do you think 10 Things I Hate About You made that weekend? Its opening weekend, April 2nd, 1999.
God, against The Matrix?
Yeah.
10 mil?
Okay, Mikey, what do you think?
$23 million.
Okay. It made $8.3 million.
Yeah. No, The Matrix was the biggest fucking thing on earth that week.
Matrix made $27 million that weekend.
Which I know does not sound a lot, but like, if you weren't a Star Wars movie, that was a lot at the time.
Yeah.
No, I mean, Matrix went on to make $173 million just domestically. But now that we're talking about domestic releases, what do you think this movie made domestically in its run in 1999?
30 mil.
Okay.
26.
It made $38.1 million and then made another $22 million internationally for a total of just over $60 million.
For a teen movie at the time, that's pretty good.
That is great. I mean, it's not Matrix money, but they made way past their budget. It made money.
Oh, yeah.
And it's done so great in streaming, and they made tons of money off of this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that's your box office.
Do you guys think they're together?
Ooh, no, I don't think anyone's together in this movie.
Absolutely not.
I mean, Julia Stiles is moving across the country in the movie.
Yeah, I think that they had an amazing summer together, and then she went across the country, and he went to school somewhere, and, they didn't last because of that. But that's fine. I mean, that happens to most high school relationships. And I don't think Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Bianca are still together either.
Absolutely not.
No.
They are only together as long as she can use him to get what she wants, and then they are not together anymore.
Yeah. Mikey, what do you think?
I definitely think that they're all together. No, I'm kidding. They're definitely all not together. I mean, geez.
Yeah.
All right, so Paige, this week I made us watch 10 Things I Hate About You, and honestly, you're welcome. What are you making us watch next week?
Next week, we're watching What's Your Number?
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen it, Todd?
I have not seen this, but you've brought this up before, so
It's not good.
I've not seen the trailer, but you've mentioned it's bonkers.
It's bonkers.
Yeah.
We can watch the trailer together if you want. My main interest in What's Your Number is the amount of time that Chris Evans spends naked in this film.
Okay. All right. Your homework for this week is to get wine drunk and naked and watch What's Your Number.
Yep.
Because apparently everyone else is naked in it.
It's streaming on a ton of stuff. I double checked.
It's actually really funny. It's
Nice.
really funny.
It's okay. It's not a great movie, but I would say it's elevated by Chris Evans, where you end up liking him so much that it makes it worth it, because the rest of the movie is not great.
Well, all right.
Yep.
So, Mikey, do you have a review for us to read?
I do.
Nice. And if you want Mikey to read your review, make sure you leave a 5-star text review on Apple iTunes, and we'll have Mikey read it.
All right. Landman91
Nice.
starts their review massively entertaining.
Well, thank you so much.
As a lover of rom-coms, I have a blast with this show. Even though the toasts totally trash some of the ones I love most. Ha ha.
Did you say the toasts? Even though the toasts totally trash?
The toast, the host.
There you go,
totally
Mikey.
trash some
That's
of the
how
ones
you
I
read
love
a
the
word.
most.
Mikey, are you smelling toast right now? Are you having a stroke? Hang on. Hang on. Can we get Mason to take you to the
nonsense.
hospital?
He didn't just have sex. Why would he be smelling toast?
Yeah, it's going to be really terrible when Paige has a stroke but also gets turned on at the same time.
They call that stroke coitus.
Yes, even though the host totally trashed some of the ones I love most, ha ha, I get a kick out of it because they're not wrong in many cases.
No, we are not.
As far as the hosts, they're great. They are clearly having a blast and have great chemistry. I love how they end the episode 2 with box office budgets and costs of things in real life.
Nice.
I especially love when they talk about whether a couple stayed together or not, because that is something my best friend and I have discussed before with romantic comedies. 5 stars.
Thank you so much, Landman91, for that awesome 5-star review. We appreciate it so much. And if you want to have Mikey read your 5-star review, leave us a 5-star review. So, yeah, guys, if you like this power throuple that we have here on this podcast, make sure to check out our other podcast, The Horror Virgin. And that is the only other podcast that Mikey and I are on. But Paige gets around, and she is on 2 other podcasts, Black Card Rehab and Cult Podcast. So guys, definitely check out those because they're amazing. If you want to follow us on social, we are at Romancing the Pod Show
Yes.
on Instagram, and we are at something else on Twitter who I just have never taken the time to learn
It's just Romancing Pod Show because they have a character limit and it's show SHO like Showtime.
So guys, check that out as well. And if you want to follow us all individually, Paige is at Rampage Wesley everywhere, including TikTok. except for Twitter, where she is at Paige Wesley. Mikey is at mrandolph24, and I am at Todd J. Awesome everywhere. And guys, we got a P.O. box. So if you want to send us some love letters or whatever you might send to a P.O. box, it's actually not a P.O. box. It's like a regular street address. It's pretty awesome. It's 6688 Nolensville Road, number 108-34, Brentwood, Tennessee 37027. So send us some stuff.
Yeah.
And that's going to be it for us, you guys. I'm Paige.
I'm Mikey.
And I'm Todd.
And you complete us.
To completion.
Toodle pip.
I don't hate you. I don't even hate you at all.
Bye. I love you, podcast.
La, 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 la.